Welcome back to the channel in episode 7, engine removal part 4. And I'm smiling because I've cheated a little bit. I've recorded this intro after I've done all the work to get the engine out and on the stand, just to make sure I could do it. So sit back and enjoy. Finally, welcome to lifting day. I've moved my 911 out, the engine stands out ready. I've got a friend popped over now, just arriving. And we should be all good to go. So let's see how we get going. I went underneath, whipped off the lower bell housing, the flex plate bolts. I actually marked where it was this time. They're the bolts over here. I also took out the engine mounts, which came out without any real trouble at all. I recorded a little bit on my iPhone, so hopefully I'll be able to show that. I've just put the back down, so that was up on axle stands, but that's back on the floor. I need to lower the front down onto the floor, and then we can lift the engine. I don't think there's anything else attached. The crane's just holding a tiny bit of tension just in case the engine rocks at all. But I think we're pretty much ready to lift. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is just break the connection between the bell housing and the engine by lifting it slightly. I've got a block of wood. If I can get this to focus. There's a block of wood on the bell housing. I'm going to lift it gently and I hope it just sort of breaks that connection between the engine and the bell housing. Oops, pulled something off there now. Right, there's definitely a part. I think I need to just do the other side. But there's definite line, like break as it's come apart there. Trying to separate the bell housing, but you can see a blue, that's my blue light underneath, so there's definitely a gap all the way around. You can see this side the same. It's not as visible this side, but definitely on that side there is separation. Right, the bell housings, we've got about 5mm gap all the way around, but it's still holding on by that bottom I guess you call it like a lug or a tab that slots between the block and the bell housing. This side's completely free. We've got like a nice sort of crack out of that as we separate it, but it's still holding on this side. Okay, so there's the lug that's holding the bell housing and the block together, which we finally managed to get out by inserting bits of wood and sort of waggling the engine up and down. But that seems to come clear. We need to do the same on the other side and then we should be good to lift. There's the second lug. So the bell housing now should be completely detached. I think we can start trying to lift the engine out, just sort of slowly creeping it up and forwards. So that's the engine part lifted. It comes up pretty easily. There's not really anything tricky once you get it clear of the bell housing. The only thing we had was the live, the red wire down there was still connected to the subframe, or cross member, but it's not a big problem. It's just quickly a clip to undo. You can see how it looks. Looks pretty cool. Back of the engine, still nice and clean. So there it is, out on a pallet. I've put some plastic underneath it in case it leaked oil, but not a drop came out, funny enough. Wasn't too bad. I mean, the actual lifting out the car, so it got stuck on the back of the bell housing for a while, but with a little bit of determination that came away, and it just lifts straight up. It's pretty straightforward. You can see the state of the heat shields in the middle there, pretty corroded. But the engine bay generally isn't that bad. It's very dirty, but it's not actually that corroded. I don't know if someone's been in there previously and sort of had the engine out and painted it or something, but it really doesn't look that bad. The cross member, which is here, is really rusty underneath, so I think I'll have to take that out. Either replace it or just repair it, or maybe it just needs to paint, I'm not sure. I'll give you another look around the engine. It's actually quite hard to film while taking out. Obviously I have my hands full, but you can kind of see the state of the engine. The pulleys and stuff here are really quite rusty. I don't know if that's a problem or not. We can look at that. I had that third chain on there as a support chain, but it didn't actually do anything. It was slack all the way through. I've been told that the engine, when you lift it, can twist. To be honest, it came out really easily. There wasn't, it wasn't as tight as I thought, and that I'd read that it's really tight sideways. It really wasn't that bad. That might have been because I took all of the pumps off down the bottom. There's, you know, the I forget what's there now actually. There's an air pump, a whatever is over there. Over this side was the alternator, and then the power steering pump. Air conditioning pump was there. Yeah, it came out really no major problem. There's the stand I'm going to be putting it on later on. If I can, I'll do it today. I'm kind of out of car time today, so it'll probably be tomorrow. Just walk around there. I'll just start to look at the studs that I need to make with that rod. That's how I'm going to hold it into the on the stand. Give you a good look over it. You can see the state of it. So even the heads are pretty rough. I'll try and get you a nice view of it. Yeah, they should clean up nice. I've seen a few people either powder coat or paint it with spray. I'm not sure. I'll probably do similar because they look a bit plain otherwise. Exhaust manifold, really rusty. I may sandblast that. I think that will sandblast up. I think you can sandblast that. I'm wary of sandblasting the aluminium because I know that isn't a great thing to do with it. It's quite aggressive. Around this side, see the flywheel. Again, I mean, it's all just very grubby. I don't think there's anything majorly bad here. This is the stuck spark plug that started this journey. Might be able to get you a good view in there. You can probably see where I've beaten it up with a chisel, trying to sort of tap it out, but it won't come out. So I'll take the heads off and we can send that away. So I have to keep focusing the camera as I zoom in and out. But that's where it sits. So it's sitting on a crate at the moment. Ideally, I want to get it over in that space there. It can sit there for a little while. I've got a car cover coming for the actual car itself. So that can be then rolled out onto the driveway. It can live outside for a few months while we work on the engine.
I don't know how long the engine's going to take. It could be a long time. It might be a lot shorter. I guess it obviously depends on how much I do with it and how much I pull my finger out. We'll just see. You see a lot of the pipe work at the top's really quite tatty. This stuff here needs replacing. I don't know if I need actual Porsche parts or if it's just generic braided piping, who knows. But that's where we'll lean on a lot of the Facebook groups and things to get advice on that. More of a look at the engine bay. I'll just slowly pan around. You can see the sort of state of things. Front of the engine bay is much worse than the back, interestingly. I don't know the history of the car, so whether it was stored outside or what, but you can see things like this pipe here is just sort of corroded off. I don't know what those two things are there, but they're very rusty. Zoom you in a little bit, you can have a look. They're pretty tatty. Things like the headlight, the bar that rotates for raising the headlights is really rusty, and the fan shroud there is pretty done. Again, that mount going across there, it's not structural, I don't think, but it's what the thing the radiator sits on. That's pretty tatty. Then you have the this cross member here, which is what the engine sits on. There's a couple of heat shields which are pretty much corroded away. That's the back side of the heat shield. This is the solid engine mounts you read about. This car's got the original sort of solid engine mounts, and it has a small sort of suspension strut sits about here. It's still attached to the engine. In fact, you can see the bolt there is the where the suspension strut sits on, and that's how it sort of cushions vibration in the engine. I'll have to clean all that area up and see what it's like. I'm hoping the mounts aren't too bad because they're about, I think they're £200 each. Obviously, there's two of them. There's the bottom of the exhaust. It clamps onto the manifold. The back of the bell housing. So there's the one of the little, I don't know what you call it, like studs or whatever, that was holding the bell housing in place. And I guess they'd corroded enough that they were just jammed in there. It took about 2 hours to separate. That's the flex plate, the triangular bit, and the starter motor ring here that's dropped down. Because on the earlier cars, or on the later cars, that's, I think, that is attached to the flex plate. On the early cars, it's bolted on, and obviously I've undone the bolts to separate, and that just drops down. There's a little bit of damage on the bell housing top there where I was prying it apart. It's just unavoidable. We had to get so much force on it. Bulkhead seems pretty solid. Not that I've ever looked at one before, but I can't see any corrosion at all. It looks quite good there. Let's walk around the other side. It's pretty much the same story. Various pipes in various states, but nothing that looks, to me, nothing looks really scary. There's the steering rack coming down there. I think it's really interesting to see that. Underneath there is the power steering stuff. I can't really get you a good shot at it, but it's sort of directly in the middle of the screen there. That's the heat shield here, this thing, and the other engine mount there. Interesting to see though, and these pipes here are pretty corroded. Centre of the screen. I look at those. This is the 14-pin connector for the wiring loom, and this is all sort of broken up and gummed together with something. I'll have a look at if I need to replace that. I'm not sure. Yeah, so what I can do now though is put the bonnet back on, which is sitting up on top of the car. I can put the bonnet back on and then roll it back, put the cover on it so it keeps dry, and leave it outside for a while, and we can play with that. Okay, so it's not often I'll give a tip, as you know, I'm no expert, but this is I think a really useful one, is to reinstall the cross brace, because without it there the car can flex and crack the windscreen. if you're lifting it up and down, which I'm going to be doing because I'm going to at some point be doing the suspension. So by putting that back in, it just will stop it flexing quite so much. It's just four bolts, very simple.
So that wraps up this video. We've got the engine out without too many hiccups and down onto a crate. Join me in the next video where we're going to be getting it on the engine stand so I can start taking those heads off and working on the rest of the engine. Please click subscribe and I'll see you next time.